You got AJ Klein, dude.
Laurinaitis. Steph Anthony.
Let's see. But I'm not sure it won't be that early.
1, 2, 3. You want to drive us to Impostato's?
Yeah.
Since we'll come back.
Yeah, I come back.
Yeah.
Ooh, Impostato's is good.
Yeah, they always have good food.
And then it's funny tomorrow. You're like, oh, I don't know this place. Me, I knew right away. Oh, tomorrow, what? The Wolf's Den, right across the street.
I've never heard of that.
It's like the bar that's always like open for
one on
Holland
the
Wolf.
corner? The one on like the corner.
It's kind of cornered from the new office.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I didn't know that was the name of it. I know the bar. I know the name of it.
Yeah.
I wonder why he wants to go there.
Because maybe he wants to go see us, show us the building.
That's what it must be.
Yeah.
Where we're not going to have a studio.
Where you're not going to have a studio.
Great.
YouTube's on. YouTube's on.
Thanks, Tim, for no studio. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, all we need. Do you really think we need a studio this big?
No.
But we still need space.
We need a closet.
That's until we start like getting in our craziness and.
Dunc and Holder on a Tuesday, February 20th. Larry Holder, Jeff Duncan, Clyde Verdun here in our NOLA.com Times-Picayune studios. Dave DeCorbier back at iHeart, pressing all the buttons, taking all your phone calls. If you want to get involved, 504-260-1280 is the number. Gonna have a good show today. Our buddy Andrew Lopez, of course, covers LSU. Will be in studio. We'll keep him. He thinks he's coming in for one segment. I'm going to keep him for two just because I'm going to lock the door and he can't get out.
Fair.
Absolutely.
Well, he's got anywhere else to go. He's stuck all day here, too.
So we'll talk with him about LSU baseball panic. The world's over. We'll talk with him about LSU basketball. They're going to be a #1 seed in the NCAA tournament. So all those good things, right? Those are both accurate statements. Am I wrong in that?
That's funny that we're going to that you're leading off with baseball. And I mean, I'm not going to scupper the rest of the show, but eventually we're going to talk about college baseball, and boy is behaving badly.
Well, it's not eventually. We're going to do this here quickly because there's a lot of ties to this and some crazy news coming out of Stark Vegas. I would never think I would lead the show with Mississippi State baseball news. Very bizarre, unless it has to do with like Will Clark or something, since he's a Jesuit guy, local ties. But this has certain local ties, and Andy Cannizaro has resigned as Mississippi State baseball coach, and it's something that I know a lot of people uptown connected to Tulane are taking to heart, because Andy Cannizaro is one of the greatest Tulane baseball players to ever play at Turchin Stadium. Was there in the heyday when they made it to the College World Series. He was a big part. I remember them beating LSU in the Super Regionals at Zephyr Field back in 2001, and he was one of the best players on that team. And he is resigning 3 games into the season, and it's something that it sends shockwaves through the college baseball world, of course, SEC baseball country down here, but it's something that I know plenty of people are going to be taken aback by this news.
Well, obviously it's something unforeseen happened. The timing of it, clearly the abruptness of the dismissal leads you to believe that I think they fired him for cause. So something went awry for Andy Cannizaro over there. It's very unfortunate because he had such a tremendous debut season, and for it to end so quickly in his coaching career, a promising coaching career at a big-time school, big-time historic, tradition-laden baseball program. Now, I think that whole program has to be kind of back to square one, trying to figure out how they pick up the pieces from this, and Andy Cannizaro's got to figure out how he can resurrect his coaching career.
Right, and here's a statement they just came out with probably about 10 minutes ago through Mississippi State. Cannizaro saying in a statement, "I had a wonderful opportunity at Mississippi State, but unfortunately, I made some poor decisions. I hope Mississippi State University and all of the fans and people affected will one day forgive me." So obviously, like you were saying, Jeff, not anything to do with on the field. Something's happening off the field, and if you go on the internet, of course the speculation's rampant. I'm not jumping in any of the speculation because I don't know for any of it to be actually true. But the moral of the story is this is going to kind of rock Mississippi State, one of LSU's big rivals. Of course, look, LSU beat Mississippi State in a dramatic super regional last year, and Andy Cannizaro went from coaching at LSU to going to Mississippi State to getting a big job, and now it's all kind of crumbling. And to combine this, Andy Cannizaro was thought of by many to be, and many uptown are probably wondering, we dodged one here, because many wanted Andy Cannizaro to become Tulane's next baseball coach, and they went another direction with Travis Jewett, and now Travis Jewett still the Tulane coach, and Andy Cannizaro out with the Bulldogs.
Yeah, Troy Dannon has taken a lot of heat and flack from some segments of the Tulane baseball community for not hiring Andy Cannizaro, especially last year when the Green Wave started slowly. And this recent news regarding Cannizaro, look, I'm sure nobody is happy about what's happened, but it certainly does paint the picture a little differently now. And Travis Jewett off to a good start at Tulane, but I think the concern right now has to be with Andy Cannizaro, his family, and his baseball coaching future. I mean, Andy Cannizaro is a local product, very popular not only...
His brother played for Tulane.
Right. He's popular in the Tulane community. He's popular at LSU. And, he's going to have to do some damage control and start over not only with his baseball career, but maybe off the field as well, because this is obviously something that happened either in his personal life or something professionally that he went awry. We don't know what happened. But you don't fire somebody
with cause.
Right, one weekend into the season.
Well, they're technically saying he resigned now, so it's not necessarily that they're, you know the semantics.
Yeah.
But and he's giving a statement and saying this, so he knows he was in trouble.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, at the same time, though, I mean, let's be honest, at least partially. The biggest thing I think that is interesting about this entire story is not so much that Cannizaro has kind of gone down a path that many, I think, have.
Well, we're not going to speculate what kind of
yeah.
something happened off the field.
Something happened off the field.
Obviously,
and it's unfortunate, but I think we have to ask the question, like with college basketball going through what will eventually be a very heavy overhaul, with all the talk that we have in college football that seems to sometimes take away off the field measures. I guess the question now should be for our group here is, does the NCAA and does college sports as a whole have an image problem, or are we talking about the fact that there are things that are going to happen over the course of many different type of ideals, whether it's on the field, off the field, whatever it is, things that we don't know about, things that we do know about. But it seems that we're talking about things like college basketball coaches and assistant coaches paying players. We're talking about college football players being arrested, suspended, back in the game the next week. Whatever we have going on, I think that there is something that we have college sports, which for many means so many different things as much as sports as a whole, but we're talking about this today to lead off the show among a lot of other things that are going on in the sports world, and I think that it's a justified question asking, does the NCAA, and especially one thing we haven't even talked about on the show, we didn't even talk about the Larry Nassar trial. We didn't talk about any of that. All the stuff that happened at Michigan State with Larry Nassar, the U.S. gymnastics coach, because he was at Michigan State for a long time, and obviously that president resigned. She wasn't going to resign, then she resigned. Then the board, all this kind of stuff. We haven't even talked about that, but that's a huge thing too.
Like, I think that you can't bulk it all together and say that college sports has some image problem. I'm not. I think it's apples to oranges. These different cases. Look, Andy Cannizaro. That is not some like systematic problem. Now Michigan State and the U.S. gymnastics stuff. Obviously, that was a systematic U.S. gymnastics major, massive issue. I wouldn't paint this one little. I'm not going to call it little because obviously it's a big deal. But this, in its own micro setting, this Andy Cannizaro thing, I don't think you should bulk it all together. It's different problems coming from different areas, but it's something that this doesn't happen only in sports. Something that where someone does something bad outside of the workplace and gets you fired. I mean, that's not something new, and that won't stop here. It'll happen again.
Yeah, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say real quickly, Jeff, like, the only thing I was going to say to Larry's point was, the thing for Mississippi State is, Mississippi State has lost their coach. Their players have lost their coach, who, a lot of the guys who are freshmen now and guys that came in signed for him. So they lose a coach. Mississippi State loses staff in the middle of the year. The only reason I'm saying that is because regardless of whether or not we know what happens, and we're not going to speculate on what happened, people are going to talk. The media outsiders are going to talk, and it's unfortunate as it is, because we're not even talking about the players who have lost their coach and Mississippi State, who now has to go about trying to figure out how they're going to do the rest of their season. That's the only thing I wanted to go in, Jeff, for.
Well, I was just going to say, it had to be something egregious, because they fired him after 3 games or whatever, 3 or 4 games into the season, and he was a very popular coach. There was no suspension. There was nothing. There was no recourse. And when you don't dismiss somebody, whatever, he resigned, basically he got fired, or else you don't do it that quickly without it being something egregious. And I think right now Mississippi State has a new football coach, right?
Mm-hmm. And a new AD.
New AD, and now they're going to be searching for a new baseball coach. Their athletic program's in a little bit of disarray. That might be the one program in the country in worse disarray than Louisville right now.
Yeah, because I mean,
maybe
that's a good
I don't
point.
think so, but you know what I mean.
Give Bobby Petrino time.
Yeah, they've got some issues over there, but they do have an AD in place.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, John Cohen was the head baseball coach for a long time. He moved to be the AD after
he had success in Kentucky, by the way.
Yeah,
just a heads up.
Yeah.
John Cohen in baseball. Just a heads up.
Oh, really?
Yes. Which,
I
speaking
didn't know
of,
anybody had success in Kentucky.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because Nick, one of the series that should be circled, or is going to be circled by many, is going to be when Mississippi State plays Kentucky, because Kentucky's head coach, Nick Mingione, I hope I'm saying that right, was a longtime assistant coach under John Cohen before he left to go take the Kentucky job. I think there might have been some in circles there who probably were looking at wanting to maybe bring him back as a coach, and instead they hired Canzero, who, I mean, he was unproven at the time, because I mean, he left the Major League Baseball scouting world after being with the Yankees organization, I believe, to come and be an assistant coach right off the bat at LSU. Then after a year, he leaves to go to be the head coach at a pretty storied program at Mississippi State, sight unseen. I understand that Tulane wanted him, but I mean, to make that leap from...
No, Tulane passed on him.
Yeah.
Canizero wanted that job.
Yeah,
I can tell you that for a fact.
I mean, that's the thing too. Like, he was unproven at that point. Like, he had barely spent a year back in doing actual coaching work before he ends up landing a job at Mississippi State. Now, granted, you figure Cohen was probably more than anything looking at trying to maybe strike it hot with a very young coach who probably could have been the next up and comer. But unfortunately, now for them, they're left without a coach just a year and a week in.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, because Paul Manera is going to be asked about this, and maybe later on this afternoon, for all I know. They take on UNO tomorrow night, the Tigers I'm talking about. But, yeah, this is something that obviously we would not normally open Dunc and Holder with Mississippi State baseball news, but there's so many ties to here. There's a reason why we're talking about it, and look, it's a wild situation. I'm sure this isn't the last of this story that we're going to hear, but it's certainly an eye opener right now as we're in the midst of opening the college baseball season. And Andy Canizero resigning up in Mississippi State, saying I'm paraphrasing, had some missteps, and he hopes Mississippi State can one day forgive him. So we're not going to come on here and speculate whatever's out there. Some of it might be true, some of it might be totally false. So we're not in the business here of just saying whatever's out there floating on a message board. But interesting conversation. When we in about 15 minutes or so, we're going to have our own Andrew Lopez, of course, covers LSU everything, football, basketball, baseball. Going to be jumping on the show here in studio, so we will talk with him about that. I want to talk with him about LSU baseball. Also want to talk with him about LSU basketball. And later on the show, I had a couple sound bites from Will Wade's press conference yesterday. Shame on me for not playing more Will Wade sound bites. This guy, guy's great.
He had a couple yesterday that were really good.
This guy's great. There's a reason you could see there's life in LSU basketball, and we'll play some of those later on in the show. Also, a bit of breaking news in the NFC South world. We'll give you that when we come back on the show. And today is the first day NFL teams can start with the franchise tag. So we will talk about that. How will some of these players that get tagged possibly affect the Saints' plans going forward in free agency? And Jeff, I also want to go through some of the Saints free agents and see where the Saints might go there. And particularly, I think you and I are going to have a difference of opinion on some of these restricted free agents, a la Willie Snead, Brandon Coleman, and Delvin Breaux. And I just want to throw out some facts and figures about the dollar amounts and the dollar amounts of franchise tagging a player, which is one reason why you and me both agree Kenny Vaccaro would be the only candidate. He's not getting tagged, and there's no way that the Saints are probably going to be in that game.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to have anybody even get a transition tag.
I would be stunned.
Yeah, nobody on this roster. They've got like this gulf of veterans that are already under contract and then younger players that are on rookie contracts. There's really nobody coming up anytime soon that's going to merit a big deal.
Speaking of more breaking news, having to do with your peeps up in Louisville coming up.
Bring it on.
Curious to see what's going to happen. So we'll bring all of you the breaking news coming up next here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder. Yeah, Jeff Goodman. Louisville, major announcement today at, I guess, 11:05.
No, they might have
very newsworthy.
NCAA appeal probably getting turned down. I'm updating Amos's story because he's got, Mississippi State to fire Canizero.
Yeah. Well, he was going off of the reporting.
I know, but now we know.
Yeah, now we know.
It's like on the
smart
site.
Josh Shinnis, mornings 6 to 10 on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
You're up before dark 30.
Looks like Dave's
you don't ask
doing a
for
separate
medals or
post
even
with
a
an
pat on the
update.
back. But if all your hard work is indeed its own reward, then consider the new Ram Limited Tungsten Edition as a bonus. Natura Plus leather seating, premium projector headlamps, suede headliner, packaged in the highly capable, hard-working truck you'd expect from Ram. Keep doing what you do, but who says you can't do it in a nicer truck? The new Ram Limited Tungsten, the most luxurious Ram truck ever. Ram is a registered trademark of FCA US LLC.
Camila Cabello is continuing to promote the release of her debut solo album, Camila. The former Fifth Harmony member performed her hit Never Be the Same on the revived British TV show Dancing on Ice. Meantime, the pop star's Never Be the Same spring solo tour has already sold out.
Flip this around, or flip this to the setting that needs to be on.
An exhibit dedicated to Justin Bieber is now open to the public in the Canadian pop star's hometown. The exhibit, titled Steps to Stardom, opened at the Stratford Perth Museum and features memorabilia. The exhibit is set to run through December 30th.
Oh, Clyde, I smell road trip.
R. Kelly could be getting a visit.
Oh, yeah, bruh.
Yeah, bruh. We're going to go to the Bieber exhibit.
Can't wait.
In Duluth, Georgia, after getting hit with a notice for failing to pay.
We're going to Thelma and Louise this thing.
Absolutely. And then because after that, the only thing that we can do honorably as men is drive off a cliff.
Pretty much.
Offset is shutting down the rumors that Cardi B is pregnant. The rapper told TMZ when asked if he was excited.
These
about
updates
being a
always
father
kill me because
with
they're talking
I
about
love
people
hearing it though.
never
I love
heard
it.
of. There's
Like Offset and Cardi
like
B.
all kinds of
and-
people. I'm like, who are these people? They're like worth news updates.
The worst ones are the health updates that I put in there where it's like, another child died of a disease.
Oh, boy. Oh, man.
Entertainment, Lisa G, NBC News Radio.
It's important to buckle up your kids.
I know.
Sometimes car seats can be complicated.
All right, 30 seconds.
Child's in the wrong seat and you get into a crash.
I know.
It could lead to a serious injury.
I know.
So you're 100% sure you have the right car seat for your child's age and size?
I don't know.
Don't think you know. Know you know.
Yeah, I like what you're doing with the show updates. Like that thing yesterday got good traction.
Oh, really? Yeah, the one about
Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
God. You have to just pick the most controversial thing.
That's the point.
I mean, that's part of the point. Like the first one.
Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back, Dunc and Holder. Breaking news in the NFL world. No one has been franchise tagged yet, just a heads up. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have released veteran running back, the muscle hamster. Is that his nickname? Doug Martin?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, is it?
The muscle hamster.
damn, it feels very, very important after that.
Exactly.
But no, he'd been on the edge of. Remember, he was designated, I think when they played here, a healthy scratch in a game, and none of the Bucs riders knew what was going on. I think he'd been kind of in and out of the doghouse in Tampa.
Yeah, that was back in 2016 at the end of the season when Tampa had playoff aspirations,
right.
And they didn't know why he was deactivated. It ended up being suspended at the beginning of this season. And so, yeah, but look, you pretty much knew that they were going to be moving on from him. I'm curious to see if he lands anywhere. He's obviously been a good player at times. People in fantasy football world are probably more familiar with him than anyone else because at times he could be great, at other times he could be a total bust. But look, they're moving on, and we will be seeing some new running back life in Tampa Bay.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they draft. And it's not, normally I finally got around to reading the Peter King Monday Morning Quarterback, and he made a good point about Saquon Barkley, who is very highly rated for this draft, but question maybe the wisdom of drafting a running back so high in this day and age in the NFL. But he did point out, I mean, let's look at three that have gone very high lately: Fournette, Todd Gurley, and Ezekiel Elliott. All three have been fantastic.
That's when I saw that and he was questioning it. That's the first thing in my head. Last I checked, Jacksonville would be nowhere without Leonard Fournette. So
yeah, Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley. They're still worthy of being taken that high if you've got a glaring need, and if they're so much better than the others. Now you can always question, at this point, how good of a pick was Christian McCaffrey for Carolina in the top 10. Didn't exactly pan out like they expected right away.
Well, and I also thought it was pretty eye-opening, his comment from Todd McShay, who said he has Saquon Barkley rated higher than any running back since Adrian Peterson.
Wow.
That's pretty remarkable. That's higher than Fournette or Gurley.
That would be higher than Fournette, because I remember last year that's what everyone was saying, that people have Fournette in the Adrian Peterson category. So they're putting Barkley above Fournette coming out in the draft.
Yeah, so that speaks highly. I think I would take a chance on a guy like that. I mean, you know what you're going to get with a player like that. And I also thought it was interesting. I read through that entire report, and there was a lot of talk about my boy, the guy I like in this draft, who I'm already proclaiming before Larry tries to jump in and steal him.
I would never do such
Kyle
a thing.
Lauletta, the quarterback from Richmond.
Oh, you can have him.
5th-round draft pick projection and moving up. Would not surprise me to see the Saints invest a draft pick in him as a potential long-term answer at quarterback.
And obviously FCS quarterbacks are the rage these days, especially obviously you look at Carson Wentz, who played at North Dakota State. So
well, he's got the attributes that I think Sean Payton really values at quarterback. First of all, the guy they compare him to is Jimmy Garoppolo, who Sean Payton loved.
Oh, never mind that. Now I see it. You were the biggest Jimmy G fan. You've been a Jimmy G fan since he was in Pop Warner.
I loved him. Yes.
I just feel like you've been following his little career when he was 7. You love the
Kyle
guy.
Lauletta's been compared favorably to Garoppolo for one reason, and that is he processes things quickly, makes quick reads, and gets the ball out quick. And as we all know from watching the Saints with Drew Brees, in this offense, that's a prerequisite. You've got to be able to go through your progressions quickly because that offense is so complicated. There's so many different options. You can't, and it's all based on timing and anticipation. You've got to be able to throw quickly and release the ball quickly. That's what Drew Brees is an expert at. I remember one time Sean Payton, and I haven't asked him about this recently, but it was early in his tenure here, asking him about Drew Brees, and one of the analogies he used was, he said, some people get cars and they get the you have different models. He said Drew Brees is the guy that wants the highest model with all the buttons on the dashboard, and he wants to use all the buttons on the dashboard. He said most of us don't ever get around to trying to learn what all the different functions are, say on like an Apple Watch or whatever. You just use like 25% of it. Brees uses all the functions. He said that's why he excels in this offense. You've got to find somebody like that. That's why I think the Tyrod Taylor thing he threw out, I mean, that was just silly. Things you need a quarterback like that that's going to work in this system.
Now, here's the thing, though. If you were the Saints, and it's kind of going back to the debate we had yesterday, and if you're wondering, well, Drew Brees is a free agent, potentially. Can they franchise tag him? No. He is not eligible to be franchise tagged. That is in his contract, so that's a stipulation you can't have. And we'll talk
isn't it like
more about this.
Massive amount of money anyway?
It would have been like 40-something million dollars, right? So you wouldn't do that anyway.
Right, but you're right. He's got. Did they work that into the contract?
Yes.
Is that what it was?
Yes. So he is not eligible to be franchise tagged. There's another player I saw in doing some research on this that's potentially to be tagged, and he has that in his contract too, which is weird. It's a younger player. I forget the name, but yeah. So you have Drew Brees. I would assume they would just bring back Chase Daniel again. What's the harm in that? That's Drew's best friend on the team easily, and there's a reason why they bumped Luke McCown and brought Chase Daniel back, because they trust him more than Luke, obviously. And then you've got Taysom Hill, who he's not here just to be a special teams guy. They like what he could potentially bring at quarterback, so you see that, and it's something that, where does a quarterback fit in if you're going to draft one? I mean, you don't want to keep 4 quarterbacks, because Taysom Hill's probably not going anywhere.
Well, I think they bring in somebody and they let them compete. And if they feel like Taysom Hill is that good and they get a rookie that they like, I think Chase Daniel's in trouble, because you can move on without him. But I think we all learned this year with Nick Foles the importance of having a good, experienced backup quarterback. They do not win a Super Bowl without him. There's no question.
No, what are you talking about? Chase Daniel would have been the backup, and he would have won it.
I just think it's funny.
You didn't even entertain that thought.
I just think it's funny looking back at it, and I kind of fell a little victim. I have to admit, guilt to this as well, speculating on the Saints' path to the Super Bowl, and everybody at the time overreacted to that Oakland Raiders game that was on Sunday Night Football, and basically speculating that could the Saints be better served to have to go through Philly, because everybody saw Nick Foles struggle in that one game, and then looking back on it, they clearly were the dominant team, not only in the NFC, but the dominant team in the NFL. And they had one game that people overreacted to and felt like, the Eagles are vulnerable. Well, they weren't very vulnerable. They were pretty dominant, I think.
We slept on the Eagles, guaranteed.
That's what I'm saying. I speculated on that. I didn't say what would be better, but it was an interesting. It just shows when you get to the playoffs, you just have to take the hand that's dealt to you and try and make the best. You're going to have to go on the road. And I think this, once again, underscores the importance for the Saints of having to play at home. They've got to somehow get home field advantage in the future in the Superdome. It's been proven year after year how hard it is to win on the playoffs in a row, especially for the Saints. And they almost had that one. Almost.
Absolutely. All right, let's take a break right here on the show. When we get back, I know our own Andrew Lopez is efforting his way to the 32nd floor here in Canal Place. He will be here for the next segment. We'll talk LSU baseball, LSU basketball. We certainly want to get his thoughts on Andy Cannizaro having to resign up in Mississippi State. Of course, former LSU assistant coach, former Tulane standout baseball player. So lots of ties there. So lots to talk with Andrew Lopez about coming up next here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeart Radio app. We're Dunc and Older.
Apparently it's the NCAA appeal,
forecast on Sports 1280,
which
New
means
Orleans.
that our banner is going to have to come down.
This report is brought to you by Stand Up.
What?
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz. Today, another day of record high temperatures getting up to 83 degrees.
Shouldn't come
Mixture
down.
of sun and clouds, a slight chance of a shower.
Why? Cal had some banners come down.
I got the Will Wade audio now.
Okay, cool. Because I'd like to play it while Lopes is here. So
that's
good.
Cool. Yeah, no, I just got it in. We're redoing the third floor, the carpet and cubicles, all this crap. So like they moved my computer, and now my computer's all effed up. So I brought my laptop today, so I had to put it through there.
Nice. Well, at some point, whenever we get situated, because we're moving.
Lung cancer.
Oh no.
So we may be coming back your way.
I hope not.
Hope you got room for us
temporarily.
No, I'm not saying that for you, Dave. I'm saying that because clearly we'd have to, like for the YouTube stream and what I've been doing and how to try to figure out getting the regular audio with it.
There's one thing America.
Well,
in fact, TV.
Well, it might be coming.
Headphone jacks in there where you get the whole feed.
I know, but the delay is the problem.
Is that the issue? Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So if you want to reach more moms,
But then,
fans,
you know,
teams,
if
professionals,
we're
shoppers, and well more.
sounds like we're
pretty
going
much
to etch out a
radio's
spot
the way
over
to do
there,
it.
but
Make a
we're going to
resolution to go to
need,
iHeartMedia.com
you know,
and put radio to
our
work for your
engineers to
company
come
in
move the
2018.
equipment and reinstall it over there.
Team USA is.
So where y'all heading to?
We are going to be on the corner of South Peters and
a 5-1 in their playoff qualifier.
St. Joe's?
Donato on the
it's like cat a corner from
I'm surrounded by great playmakers
Holland
that
Wolf,
put me in situations.
like the Wolf's Den, like right next to like Red Eye.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
While American alpine skier Ted Ligety is leaving South Korea and skipping the upcoming men's.
Y'all all fancy and stuff now.
No, we're not. We're not. Yeah, we're not.
I'm actually happy.
I like the move. We need to be.
We don't
want
to be in this place.
Yeah. We don't need all this space. If you see our studio where we're sitting, it's massively too big.
Right.
You could fit like
between Detroit and
10 people's like cubicles in here.
You could. You could. There are things that I could say. There are things that I know.
Shooting over 60%.
What does that mean? Things that I know.
Things that I know. Ominous.
Things that I know. It sounds like a mafioso.
I know, right?
I know where all the bodies
sergeant.
are
He's like a lieutenant.
And
things I know.
Well, it's time
whenever
to
Lopes
put it
gets
back
in
on your
here, he'll
list.
get in here.
Innovative
He told me he
things
was
are happening
parking.
in teaching
Okay.
today, and you can be a part of it.
Make more. Teach. Visit teach.org. Brought to you by Teach and the Ad Council.
Violate such a simple plan. Tear me out, Mr. Dead.
We bleed purple, green, blue, black, and gold. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This is so soothing. It's so much better than any other music since it technically is Torture Tuesday.
You thought I'd forgot?
How have we ventured away? I was gonna say, Dave, I don't get on you at all, but you know how much I relish Torture Tuesday. Come on, man.
It is oddly satisfying.
Oddly satisfying.
It's soothing. It's like Yanni for me. It's my Yanni, Torture Tuesday, a bunch of screaming and death metal here on Dunc and Holder. All right, Lopes, Andrew Lopez is on his way. Literally, he's efforting his way through the elevator, so he's coming in studio. So we'll talk with him when he gets up here. But before he gets here, I want to play a couple Will Wade sound bites. I kept saying this to you guys. There's going to be the slow chatter of people trying to possibly get LSU onto the bubble for the NCAA tournament because they've had so many top 50 RPI wins. Even though, what are they, 15-11, 6-8 in conference?
Yeah, I think there has been precedent set for a team to have a losing conference record and still make the tournament.
Yeah.
I think that did happen a few years back, but it's very rare.
Yeah.
You got to get at least to 500, I believe.
Yeah, or you have to, obviously win your conference tournament. If you are some of the teams like the SWAC and things like that.
I just don't think they've got enough juice right now to get in.
One of the things that we don't bring in, though, is the SEC tournament. Now, I mean, obviously, the thing is you want to close out the season well. You don't want to obviously take a bad loss that, could hurt your chances. But there's a possibility if you could pull out a string of wins. There are only 4 games left in the regular season. So there's only 4 games left in the regular season, and then you get to the conference tournament. Maybe you win 1 or 2 games because you're going to be playing that opening day, Monday or Tuesday or whatever it is. And you'll have that, and then you'll have, if you win a couple games there, you'll have 2 more wins in the conference tournament, so that could help.
Well, I love the realism and realistic views of Will Wade. Goals for this season weren't to necessarily win the NCAA title. They weren't to finish atop the SEC. His goals were extremely realistic. As our own Andrew Lopez jumps in here, he doesn't have a headset right now, but I'm assuming you were at the Will Wade press conference yesterday.
I was.
So the goal for the season I thought was incredible. Honest, truthful, and realistic. Let's hear what Will Wade had to say for the goals for this season for LSU basketball.
Having a winning season, that was by far my first goal. Are you kidding me? We were 10-21 last year, guys. We lost 15 straight games. My heart, but shoot, we've won 6 SEC games. We won 2. I mean, yeah, the first goal was to not have a losing season. That would be phenomenal. I mean, that would be a major that'd be a major step. I mean, I was just, heck yeah. That was goal 1. Then we can move on to bigger and better things, hopefully. But, I mean, we got to be realistic now. I mean, the goal, I mean, we've won 6 SEC games and we've won 15 overall. I mean, if we get to 16, that's a, I mean, I'm not, you know, we're not trying to pat ourselves on the back, but it's pretty good from where we came from 8 months ago, 9 months ago. I mean, that's pretty good progress. But that's obviously not what that doesn't get anybody real excited or but I mean, yeah, the number one goal for me going into the season was, let's not have a losing season.
Andrew Lopez here in studio. The goal is not to have a losing season. He says it's not something to get excited about and doesn't get anybody's blood boiling and fired up. But to me, I think that's extremely refreshing to hear, honestly.
Yeah, and that's one of Will Wade's things that he's been harping on. It's not having these expectations that are out of the box. And obviously he does have more goals. Postseason, even if he won't say it now, going to the postseason is one of his goals. But to do that, you have to have a winning record going into the postseason. And so not having a losing season, which they can clinch tonight with the 16th win of the season. Now, obviously, they could still lose, in theory, the last 3 games of the regular season, the first game of the SEC tournament, and then some CBI pay-for-play tournament game and finish 16-16, but it means not having a losing record. And obviously, you heard just now how emphatic he was about not having a losing season and being at least 500 this year, no matter what.
Yeah, and you mentioned the postseason talk, and I've been sprinkling that in because I keep watching their RPI and their RPI wins, and I'm trying to temper my enthusiasm because I know it's a tall order for them to get in.
7 top 26 wins right now in the RPI. So RPI is an outdated unit of measurement, I think. I think there's other better ways to look at teams.
Then we're not talking to you anymore.
Ken Pom.
Because that's RPI McGee over here. I'm Mr. RPI.
He's RPI McGee.
Are you like the only guy left who still cares about RPI? Like you in the committee?
I need a website that shows me all the other things. You got to show me this.
Oh, I got websites.
All right. I don't want to know your website.
Wait till we start talking about quadrants. Let's talk about those.
But
Quadrant 1.
Let's hear what Will Wade has to say about any chatter of postseason tournaments at this point.
Oh, hell no. No. We worry about that today. Look, I've been on that bubble a lot, and so, you know, about the most I'll tell them is I'm the expert. You just listen to me. You don't listen to what anybody else has to say. They don't know. So you listen to me, and I'll let you know what you need to know.
Oh, hell no. Hell no.
That was so good.
I will say that was at the question to that leading in was, do you talk to your team about it?
Right.
And then he gives that. Then he goes on to say, guys, I promise you we don't talk about it. The only thing that we talk about, and he goes on to say that, give us 2 games. Like, if we win these 2 games this week, then we talk about it next week. Like, okay. I'm good with that.
Because you win those 2 games, and then you're 8-8 in conference, and then you're in a different spot.
Can we just talk about the fact that they might be 8-8 in conference?
I think that's incredible. Look, they take on Vandy tonight, so you got to jet back up to Baton Rouge and prepare for a significant basketball game, which I don't know what you were doing last year. Were you even bothering to cover games? Because
I was.
So bad?
He was. I saw him there. I saw him at games. It was fun.
For some reason, Clyde was there last year as the guy who can say whatever the SEC network allows you to say, Johnny Jones to say on when they mic him up.
It was fun times.
You gave him a script.
That was Clyde's job to say, nope, you can't use this. And I think sometimes it was just me and Clyde there.
Pretty much.
I'm not sure there were many more people outside of us.
We'd hang out before the game. I'd go down, do some work, go get some stuff, get some water at halftime, do the rest of the half, and then we talk at the end of the game.
Yeah. And by the way, enjoy your 3 o'clock meeting, boys. I won't be there for that one. I'm going to head back up to Baton Rouge for that, but this is still a Vandy team that beat them earlier this season.
I remember watching that game, and because I was anticipating LSU to keep the ball rolling because they were rolling then, and all of a sudden they kind of ran into a speed bump at Vandy, and I'm wondering, all right, well, maybe let me calm down my
Riley LeChange, Jeff Roberson, I think that game combined for 46 points. I think they had 6 of Vandy's 7 3-pointers. So they know, but you were talking about the rest of the schedule. You're talking about postseason play. NBC Sports has them on the next 4 out. multiple sites have them at least in the conversation for the NCAA tournament, maybe even going to Dayton for the first 4, which is still still a huge accomplishment for this team. But if you look at their last 4 games, Vandy, Georgia, South Carolina, and Mississippi State, I'm not saying they do win all of those games.
They're winnable.
But they're winnable.
They're winnable. You're not going against Auburn and Tennessee.
And even Auburn right now, Auburn just loses their shot blocker. So
gruesome.
Yeah, he was carted off the court the other night. So everybody, I mean, you have played well enough to have 7 RPI wins in the top 26, since we're going to use RPI on this show. You have 7 of those. 7 quadrant 1 victories.
I still have a BlackBerry.
Flip phone? Flip phone, dude?
You and Jarrett Rosa. Y'all are the only 2 people left I know.
I broke a lot of stories on a BlackBerry. Lots of stories.
I think Jarrett just broke his. But you have those kind of wins. So you know you can compete with anybody in the country. Will has said on several occasions, you give him 2 days to prepare, he feels good about his chances against most teams in the country. And I can tell you, they're going to go into these 4 treating them like Final Four games.
Well, I think the key is going to be, can they win on the road? I mean, they've lost 5 in a row in the SEC on the road. They won at A&M earlier this year, but A&M was in a little bit of a funk back then.
And it took 2 miraculous shots by Tremont Waters to get that done.
Right. So how many games has this kid won for him this year?
He's won a good bit, and it's definitely one of those things where as Tremont Waters goes, so does the rest of the team. When he's still, you look at his shooting numbers, he had 21 points the other night. In SEC play, he's shooting, I think, 33% from the field, 25% from deep.
Yeah, you could see he kind of hit a little rookie wall.
Teams have figured him out.
Right.
Teams have figured him out. It's kind of like Trae Young at Oklahoma.
I noticed that last night. Kansas throttled Oklahoma.
They know what to do against him now.
Right.
And Tremont has to learn how to get things going the other way. When he hit the first 3-pointer the other night, I looked at Ron Higgins, our columnist, and I said, it's going to be a good night. And he goes on and scores 21 points and controls that game. Even if they tried to give it away at the end, but I told him this is when he's on, but he's won them a lot of games, but he's played really bad in some of these losses that they've had.
Well, I think the key is going to be, I mean, they're playing basically the 4 last place teams in the SEC.
Everybody is at least a game within. I think Mississippi State is the only team above them, and Mississippi State's at 7-7 with a very bad non-conference. Mississippi State didn't really beat anybody in non-conference.
They get them at home.
They get them at home, and then you're on the road to Georgia and South Carolina. Georgia, you probably should have had back here. You played very bad in that game. South Carolina might be the one I'd chalk up as an L, but all of these teams are beatable. All of these games are winnable. So to me, I think you have a legitimate shot at 18-12 in the regular season, which you're 18-12 going into the tournament. You win 1 in the tournament. You're 19-13. I mean, that's a Dayton-esque resume, but I'd like to see them get to 20 if I'm going to push them all the way in.
Yeah, I don't think anyone, though, is going to be disheartened or disappointed if LSU misses the NCAA tournament but still goes 500 the rest of the way. I think getting into the NIT is good enough, and then next year your expectations kind of jump through the roof. Andrew Lopez covers LSU for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, join us right here in our studio. So why don't we take a break right here on the show? When we get back, we'll switch it to baseball. Certainly want your thoughts on, unbelievably, the top topic of our show, Mississippi State baseball. Of course, the connections. You know where I'm going with this, Lopes. Andy Cannizaro resigning from Mississippi State. So we will talk with Andrew Lopez about that. And should LSU baseball just shut it down? It's over, right, Lopes?
According to the post, to the comments, it's the comments and my Twitter mentions say the season is over.
That's about right. So, all right, I'm in for panic. I love panic, overreaction.
That's how you live.
I do live panic, bouncing off walls everywhere. So, all right, come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder. Don't feel like you got a the mic. Like that is those mics.
I don't know where. I don't know how.
Literally,
close I
You're
gotta
good there.
Cool.
Yeah.
You do not
Hold
need
on, I'm gonna put it here, but like literally.
No, that's cool.
You can just sit there.
That's cool.
They're more
Not used
sensitive
to
than normal mics.
Not used to
We
that.
had to. We had to
Used to
learn.
it.
Yeah.
So Andy officially resigned. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And he gave a statement.
I saw the statement. I didn't know that he
Yeah,
officially
yeah.
resigned.
Wow.
I thought they let him. I mean,
iHeartRadio is
Doesn't
an
matter.
easy-to-use app for music and radio.
Right.
You can take Sports 1280 with you
It's all
anywhere.
semantics.
I'm
Let's just
friends
say
with
you're in
the
mood for
girl's
Darius
husband.
Rucker. Just type in
Like,
Darius
the
Rucker,
one
and
the
iHeartRadio makes a custom
supposedly
station just for you, based
jumped
on
from
their
like
music and other
2,300
similar
followers
artists
to like
Hootie and the
10,000 followers
Blowfish.
today.
And we automatically personalize the station to suit your
Oh my
taste
gosh.
because no one likes the
Well,
exact
we're
same
not
mix.
speculating on
iHeartRadio
what
app.
happened.
It's not
Yeah,
just
no.
radio,
I know
it's
that's
Sports
just.
1280
I
and
was
your
I was
own
out
custom
last night
station.
and
Download the free iHeartRadio app now.
we got a text. So I was
The
with
thought
the
of
two
winter
dudes from
coming
SEC
can
Country.
be chilling.
We're at
Knee-deep
Chimes, we're at
snow,
trivia.
face-numbing
And,
winds, frozen fingers,
he
temperatures
gets a
below
text, like,
zero,
like 10:10.
and yet
By the
without
way,
a
you're
Duralast
on
car battery,
YouTube,
it
so
could
don't
be
say
even
anything
worse.
You don't want it to get out.
Got it.
That's why
Yep.
Duralast batteries.
And, he got
so,
it at
that
like
doesn't
40
stop.
below zero.
He got it at
your
like
car
10.
can start up like it's 72 and sunny.
Well, I saw it came out last
Visit
night
any
and
of
I
our
was like,
5,000
probably already
locations
shit.
nationwide.
I called
Get you
Amos
what
at like
you need.
11:30. I was like, hey, what you doing?
Samsung has a patent for a new
Hey,
type
what
of
you
drone
doing?
that lets you
What you
control
doing? I saw
the
he
movement
wrote
of
the
your
post.
eyes
I was like, you busy?
and
Hey, you
gesture.
wrote the-
Drawings
what you
designed
doing?
for
Did he immediately sign? Go.
plans
Well, I
that can
texted
track
him
the
and I was
user's
like,
eyes and hands
need a
in
favor.
real
He's like,
time.
what you
Also
need?
includes
I was
voice
like,
recognition. The patent was
can
granted
you,
just last week.
Yeah.
Potentially
Drop
a
the
game
post, please.
changer
Can you do this?
in
He's
the
like,
drone industry.
all right, I got it.
There's a new laptop recall.
I was like, I'm out. I'm like, I
more
don't-
than 78,000
trying to win
ThinkPad
trivia.
laptops.
I'm trying to win. I'm trying to win.
Trying to win
free
this
weeks.
$35 at Chimes. Actually turned into
45 seconds.
Generation laptops.
The first thing you win is like a 6-pack of beer, and I was like, thanks, I don't drink. That's great for me.
Yeah, it's like, well, this is awesome.
Send it my way.
Has been called at
I think
least twice.
everybody
Yeah,
else
because how often do you
took
find
it right
yourself
away.
at the Chimes Baton
to
Rouge?
the walls. Apple won't
Not
say how
often
many times.
enough.
Yeah, not often
There are
enough.
reports that some
It was like
employees
dealer's
have put
choice, too. It was
Post-it
like
notes on the
they just went in the back and just
multitude of
like,
glass
"Here's 6
doors
beers."
and walls in the buildings to warn of their presence. That's your tech
But then we
update.
won the
Doug Parrish,
$35.
ABC News
Nice.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching
I used to
Alliance.
live
10 seconds.
for Mellow
CF,
Mushroom
a
trivia.
national nonprofit, offers
We
more
skipped
than
that one.
1,000
We
free
do-
online
we normally do
resources for youth and high
Pluckers
school
trivia.
sports coaches, parents, students,
Pluckers
and
gives you like
administrators.
$200 if you
Visit
win.
PCADevZone.org.
Hadn't paid for Pluckers in 8 months.
Oh, wait, you did that.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Welcome back, Duncan Holder. Got Andrew Lopez, LSU beat writer for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune in studio with us. And definitely a shocker in the college baseball realm, and especially locally here with so many ties with Andy Cannizaro. But he, whatever you want to call it, resigned. He's been relieved of his duties. Basically, he's no longer the Mississippi State baseball coach.
That's the best way to put it.
And only 3 games into this season. And look, I know you have talked with him when he was an assistant at LSU, and we all know the ties here. When you saw the news and got word of it last night, a stunner, right?
Yeah, look, I was telling you guys during the break, I was out at dinner last night or at trivia last night, and somebody got a text message maybe about 20, 30 minutes before the news broke, and we start looking to see where this is, like where is this coming from? And I think at one point all you saw on Twitter was like one Ole Miss kid who was the only person who had anything on Twitter. We're like, where does this come from? Like, what happened? And we're trying to figure it all out, and it was just we were flabbergasted. We couldn't make sense of it. We're trying to figure it out, and it comes out this morning that they were. He was going to get fired with cause. They let him resign, let him make a statement, but it's just an absolute shocker to see what actually happened.
Yeah, and I think obviously it was something egregious to fire somebody, or in this case, force a resignation so
Right.
quickly into a season. I mean, if there was something that led up to this, it wouldn't have been as abrupt. They would have made the change before the season even began.
Yeah, it's one of those, not on the level of, like, it's kind of like the Hugh Freeze situation where it's something that they found out, and it's like, well, we got to do something now. This has nothing to do with the fact that Mississippi State lost was swept by Southern Miss this opening weekend. You don't make changes in baseball because of that quickly.
And Southern Miss is good.
It's still a very good team.
Right.
Yeah. So when Mississippi State went to a regional last year, they were at Southern Miss. So for them to get this done, it is something bad that Andy,
must have done
and admitted to it in so much in his mistakes. I think that he says in his statement. So, not the way you thought you'd have the first baseball coach get canned in the first week of the season.
Absolutely. And look, we know how much Andy Cannizaro is in the running at Tulane.
Huge.
And so people
is this not like Troy Dannon's best move yet now? Just because of how
he
this
took a lot of heat.
He took a lot of heat because Andy Cannizaro is very much beloved in the Tulane community.
I still would have. I felt this, and this notwithstanding, if Andy would have been hired at Tulane, Andy never leaves Tulane. I don't think Andy leaves for LSU. I don't think Andy would have ever he was home. Everybody's across the lake.
Well, a lot of people figured he would just be like Rick Jones, his mentor,
and just stay there,
right,
and never leave. He'd if he built him into a pro, he could be at at Rice, where he just continues to win from Wayne Graham, and he can win from a smaller program, and he never goes anywhere. And Troy put his stamp on that program by hiring Travis Jewett. Didn't hire who everybody at Tulane was.
We all just assumed that would be the guy.
It was like, why am I even
him
doing
or Matt
this
Reiser, another Tulane guy who's still up at Southeastern.
It's why am I doing an actual coaching search right now?
Right.
Like this is Reiser or this is Andy, and then he goes out the box. So he looks really good today with switching that around, and it didn't help that Tulane swept Wichita State this past weekend.
Well, Wright State.
Right.
Wichita
As we learned
State.
yesterday.
Yes.
As we learned yesterday.
Yeah, because they win the Horizon. Because
Wright State is
there's
the
6 teams in the
power.
Horizon.
They could beat the Yankees.
Don't bag on them. Anyway, LSU baseball though, it's panic time, right?
It is panic time. They're gonna go 1-55 now. So it's over.
Shut it down. Shut down the program.
That's what my mentions say. That's what the comments say. So I mean, it must be true.
In all seriousness, they're going to be taking this UNO game pretty seriously because of A, what happened last year with UNO, and B, because of the way they started.
Yeah, they are not.
And they play tomorrow, right?
They play tomorrow night. Yeah,
Right.
I don't think I could do both games tonight.
That'll be tough.
But they do play tomorrow night. UNO goes to Alex Box at 7 p.m. LSU is likely to start Cam Sanders, I feel the one pitcher they didn't try to use this weekend. But they have to get somebody to basically just throw the ball over the plate. It's not even so much your offense. You had, the 2 home runs on Friday night. You score 5 on Saturday. You get 3 on Sunday. You'd like to see more than that, obviously. But when your offense, when you're coming from behind, you should start swinging. You're going to swing early at first pitch. You're going to swing when you don't want to. You're not going to be patient at the plate and draw walks. And draw walks is something that Notre Dame did. I think it was something like 26 or 27 free passes in terms of walks and hit batters. Your starting pitchers, where you were hoping Caleb Gilbert and Zach Hess could be strength, both kind of had bad games. I think your starters for the weekend went 10 1/3, period. You don't want that to happen.
No.
And
Clyde's
now,
even aghast.
That's not good.
Clyde knows. Clyde knows that he doesn't want his softball starters to go 10 1/3 over a weekend.
That's not good.
With shorter games, he knows that 10 1/3 isn't good.
It's not gonna cut.
It's not cutting.
So they need to. You can kind of, I think. And this is baseball, and this is what LSU does. They're missing their top 2 pitching signees, guys who could help this rotation, but they'll be okay. You also open for the first time, and you open with Notre Dame. You didn't open with
Brown.
Wright State. You didn't open with another Conference USA school or a Horizon League. You open with Notre Dame, who is still a good program. You're bringing in Texas this weekend, who is ranked higher than you in some polls. So if LSU is still looking at a losing record after this weekend, say 3-4, it's okay. This is baseball. Talk to me in April if we're still got a losing record.
Relax.
I'm not going to relax.
RELAX.
I'm not relaxing.
Like Frankie says.
If they're 1-6, no, I'm not relaxing. It's over.
It's already over, though.
It's over. He's gonna shave his head again. I feel another shave your head proclamation coming.
No, it's going to grow back. It's going to grow back within 2 months anyway.
I just saw a photo of Larry with hair, and it didn't look like Larry.
Yeah, right. It's crazy now.
I will say this: this is my first time seeing Larry since he shaved his head, and I was a little confused as to why.
Like, what's the big deal?
What's the big deal?
Like, I was like, what? What are y'all talking about?
Naturally.
My bad.
There you go. Andrew Lopez covers LSU for NOLA.com and Time Speaking. He'll be covering the Vandy game tonight, so good deal. And be covering UNO baseball tomorrow.
Somebody will.
Well, somebody will be
because
there.
this man doesn't sleep. He covers everything else at this point.
Might not. We'll figure it out.
We'll have it covered. Well, Lopes, appreciate the time. Hour number 1 is up. Hour number 2 is on the way. Franchise tag chatter coming up next. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder.
Somebody I was about to say.
If you or a relative has ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, there's something new that could help. Dr. Tomas Homeland, a neurologist who treats ALS, says it's a tough disease to deal with.
It can affect anybody, but it peaks between 55 and 65. So it's sort of in the older age group, men and women, maybe men a little bit more. 20,000 people in this country have it.
ALS usually begins with weakness in an arm or leg and can eventually affect speech and breathing. People with it usually don't live longer than 5 years after diagnosis, which can take up to 14 months. Dr. Homeland is calling attention to a new medication called Radicava, which he says slows the progression of the disease. He says its manufacturer, MT Pharma America, offers counseling on side effects and on insurance issues. Health Update, Sarah Lee Kessler, NBC News Radio.
WODT, WNOE FM HD2 New Orleans. Listen on the free iHeartRadio app. Search Sports 1280. Fox Sports trending now.
Well, no NBA action until Thursday night, but Fergie has issued a statement regarding her performance of the national anthem at Sunday's NBA All-Star Game, saying that as an artist she tried to do something different, but, quote, clearly this rendition didn't strike the intended tone, end quote. Baseball news, J.D. Martinez and the Red Sox have agreed to a 5-year, $110 million deal with a player opt-out after the second year. Gerard Dyson gets a 2-year deal with the Diamondbacks for $7.5 million. And the Miami Marlins will honor victims of last week's shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School by wearing the school's caps before their Friday Grapefruit League opener against the Cardinals in Jupiter, Florida. No word yet whether Major League Baseball will allow them to wear those caps during the game. And the New York Post is reporting that the Jets are willing to offer free agent quarterback Kirk Cousins a deal in the neighborhood of 5 years, $150 million. I'm Deb Carson.
Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today and pick up 5 quarts of Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil for $28.95. Plus, get a $10 O'Reilly Auto Parts gift card after mail-in rebate and earn double O Rewards points with your purchase. Protect your engine with Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
For game-changing innovation, look to the Latrim family of companies located in Harahan. Intralocks, a Latrim company, changed the game when they invented modular plastic conveyor belts over 40 years ago. These belts and innovative Intralocks technology are transforming movement in manufacturing facilities around the world. Intralocks is a dynamic global company now hiring in production, warehousing, shipping, and more. If you want to be part of our successful team, visit Latrim.com. That's LAITRAM.com.
Camila Cabello is continuing to promote the release of her debut solo album, Camila. The former Fifth Harmony member performed her hit Never Be the Same on the revived British TV show Dancing on Ice. Meantime, the pop star's Never Be the Same spring solo tour has already sold out.
Is it too late now to say sorry?
An exhibit dedicated to Justin Bieber is now open to the public in the Canadian pop star's hometown. The exhibit, titled Steps to Stardom, opened at the Stratford Perth Museum and features memorabilia. The exhibit is set to run through December 31st.
Hot and fresh out the kitchen.
R. Kelly could be getting evicted soon. The singer is reportedly on the verge of getting kicked out of his mansion in Duluth, Georgia, after getting hit with a notice for failing to pay thousands of dollars in rent. The eviction notice follows the accusation that he was using the property to run a sex cult, which he has denied. Offset is shutting down the rumors that Cardi B is pregnant. The rapper told TMZ when asked if he was excited about being a father with Cardi B, he simply said no when asked if she was expecting. Speculation of a pregnancy also started swirling after last month's Grammys, which Cardi B quickly put an end to by telling fans, "I'm just getting fat." That's entertainment. Lisa G, NBC News Radio.
Sports 1280 New Orleans. Instant replay. Eric Asher, weekdays, noon to 2.
And look, I wish him all the best. And I think from those that I've talked to, and again, I didn't go deep medicine like you. I just went toward what's the makeup of the guy doing the rehab, because I think that tells us everything. Right. And we're going to find out how bad he wants to play again, because it.
Yep, Jeff.
That and
banner's coming down, bro.
Surgery are the two hardest to rehab back from, because he
sent me like 5 emails and texts.
Coming down.
All because of
it's a very monotonous process.
They got a few players.
According to Pat Forty, stripper gate.
Yeah, that's what it's about. It's ridiculous.
Just
it's the dumbest
getting past,
thing ever.
I got to do the same thing as hard as I did yesterday, again today, and for the next 85 days. I mean, that's mentally hard.
No,
and then
bored.
coming off
you
what you
Potter
did to get to this.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're boring you, Jeffrey.
Season. He lost the weight. He changed his diet. He was working out like a fiend, out of control. And
so, do we need to send strippers to the studio? Perk it up.
Oh, very funny. Very funny.
As well.
Awkward.
And for changing how people view it.
Indeed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm telling you, that was as much of a motivator as anything else this year. Look, I know it's a contract year. That's definitely huge. Playoff, yes.
Right.
But it was funny. Even with the officials, DeMarcus had gotten to the point where he was killing them with kindness. It was kind of laughable, actually, for a while there.
All right, 15 seconds.
And changed the way that he was viewed by his peers, officials, and fans to some extent.
Listen live weekdays on Sports 1280 and the free iHeartRadio app, or catch up at sports1280.com.
Dunc and Holder, hour number 2 on a Tuesday, February 20th. If you missed any of our first hour, had Andrew Lopez, covers LSU for us here at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Had him in studio for 2 segments. If you missed any of that, check it out later, sports1280.com, NOLA.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube page. And Jeff's spidey sense was correct, according to our...
It's really not news.
But it's news.
I mean, it's already happened.
It certainly seems like it's news.
Just an appeal that was not granted. So I mean, this
certainly sounds like news.
I don't think it's news.
Yeah,
it'd be news if the appeal were upheld.
It's news. Bye Banner. Bye.
I don't think so.
Louisville's penalties related to, according to Pat Forty, Strippergate scandal upheld. Wins vacated, which means 2013 title banner is coming down. Are you going to take it and hide it?
No.
I would suggest, here's what I would do. I would give Louisville the same suggestion I gave Reggie Bush. Take that Heisman trophy that they tried to rip away from him and throw it in the ocean. Be like, you want it, go get it. Go find it.
I think they did rip it away from him, didn't they?
He should have
returned it, right?
He should have thrown it in the ocean and said, "Go dig it up.
Returned it.
Go find it."
Wow, savage.
No, what I think what the NCAA is doing is they're sending messages not only in this denial of the appeal, but also in what they did with Notre Dame, that they are cracking down. They're being more harsh than they've ever been, and trying to send messages to their institutions that they're not going to take any kind of crossing the line that has happened down through the years. Now, we'll see what happens when all this goes down with college basketball. That's what I'm curious to see what they do. When college basketball, if this, in fact, FBI investigation uncovers what we're hearing, what's being reported, I don't know what they're going to do in college basketball because the entire sport is going to be implicated, it sounds like, every program, which we all know has been going on forever. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
I'm pretty sure when that thing comes out, we'll forget what happened at Louisville. I think that will be a nothing compared to what's coming down when the feds are investigating this thing. But, yeah, so got that going on. We got a couple of NFL releases. Apparently today is the day where people are getting released. I don't know. But Brian Cushing is going to be out at the Texans. And Jarrell Freeman, linebacker, who I thought maybe a couple years ago would have been a good fit for the Saints, he's being released from the Bears. So a lot of movement. Wanted to get into this hour. Franchise tag time is now open. Today is the first day you can do a franchise tag, whether it's exclusive or non-exclusive, and the transition tag. It's something that teams are going to be wondering who's going to be left after this once free agency comes. That's the big question for the Saints. Drew Brees is not going to be franchise tagged. He cannot be franchise tagged. It's part of his contract. And even if it was not a stipulation, it would be insane because it would have been, the third time? Or I don't even know how many times he's been tagged at this rate. I feel like he's been tagged half his career.
Yeah, that's multiple, right?
It'd be the third time because he was tagged once in San Diego, tagged once here with the Saints, and it would have been a third time, so it would have been $40-some-odd million, something insane. And it would all go on this year's cap, so you can't do that.
Yeah, it's be egregious. I think the key for the Saints deal with Brees is going to be how they can make it cap-friendly so they can still go out and add to the roster. But they don't want to go crazy. Just because you have the room doesn't mean you have to go spend it and all of a sudden get back in the problems that they had before with the cap. Right now, they've finally gotten through that period. They've got a good young roster. They don't need to just spend to spend. That happened before, and I don't think they will. I think they learned their lesson. At least I hope they did with free agency. That's really not the way to go. I think what they did last year was the way to go with adding just some kind of tier 2 level free agents. I did want to say one thing, though. I was looking through the NFL Draft Scout value blocks like I always do last night. One of the top players in this draft is Tremaine Edmonds, an outside linebacker from Virginia Tech, who is Trey Edmonds' brother. I didn't know this. He's like a first-round draft pick, second-round draft pick.
He's a potential top 10 guy.
Right.
That's how high people are projecting him. So, yeah, I don't think he's going to be in the realm of the Saints when they have to make a pick. Yeah. Well, obviously these things can change, but yeah, I don't think he's going to be in it. And, Jeff, you say this about free agency, and I look at free agency and I look at some of the players out there. I'm not wowed by it. I feel like I was not even going into the franchise tag time because you could look at some of the players who are going to be franchise tagged. To me, there are two players that are the most obvious franchise tag candidates on planet Earth. Le'Veon Bell with the Steelers, DeMarcus Lawrence from the Cowboys. Those guys will be tagged. But I'm just using NFL.com as a reference right here. But they're saying maybe Allen Robinson, who tore his ACL in week 1, but they still feel like maybe Jacksonville, because Jacksonville has so much money, they could afford to throw a tag at him if they wanted to. They're saying maybe Sammy Watkins with the Rams, Kyle Fuller with the Bears, maybe Andrew Norwell with the Panthers. Ziggy Ansah is someone who, if he were to get free, of any of those guys I just named, well, DeMarcus Lawrence would certainly be one, but he's not getting free. But Ziggy Ansah would be maybe one of the guys that the Saints would keep an eye on because it's that never-ending question. You need another bookend, defensive end. He's been kind of up and down the last couple of years. I'm curious to see what Detroit does with Ziggy Ansah because their defense has been pretty good considering how much, say, pub the offense gets with Matt Stafford and some of those receiving weapons.
And I think Ziggy Ansah, if he does get to free agency, is going to command a pretty big deal. I'm not sure the Saints would be in that market or not. I don't know what they think of Ansah, you're right. He's been inconsistent down through the years. He's looked like a beast some games, and the other games he disappears for stretches. So I don't know if the Saints would be in that market or not. Certainly they need and know they need to add pass rush help and address that one position. I think it's the number one need for this team this offseason. Now, how they fill it, I don't know. I don't know if they feel like Alex Okafor can return and man that spot. I don't know if Alex Okafor wants to come back. I would assume he would, but that's a big question mark for this team.
Absolutely. And if he would have played out the year and been healthy, I would have guesstimated he could have had 7 sacks, maybe 8 sacks. He would have gone to try to go to the open market unless they got fortunate. Well, now it's unfortunate with the Nick Fairley deal because the Saints were able to retain him, and that deal blew up in his face. Another interesting candidate that I know lots of Saints fans throughout the years have wondered how he would fit in with the Saints would be Sheldon Richardson. And he got traded from the Jets to the Seahawks in the season. And Seattle doesn't have a lot of cap room, so I don't see them being able to give a tag to him. I would be almost buyer beware with someone like him. A lot of issues with the Jets. There's a reason why they jettisoned him out. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about him. I would not go breaking the bank for Sheldon Richardson at this point.
No, I don't think they need to. I mean, they've already got a big investment somewhat in Sheldon Rankins. You'd be playing him inside alongside Sheldon Rankins. I think the way the roster is made up right now, you need to determine where you want to spend your cap dollars. And I don't think it's on an interior defensive lineman. I think it's more on either a pass rusher or a corner like we've talked about. Because you have to budget out where your spending is. I know a lot of people, that's one of the reasons why I don't think they're going to go heavy for a tight end, because they've already got dollars committed to Fleener. And I don't think they can afford to just cut him now after they've already guaranteed him, $3.4 million? Why would you go ahead and cut him? You would have cut him before. So I think they're kind of locked in with their tight end position. As far as going for big dollars, you're not going to commit too much money to that position.
I would not pay Jimmy Graham. And I don't think Jimmy Graham's coming back. And you also look at who else is out there? Tyler Eifert. He's been injured, off-injured so much for the last few years. You can't invest that. Maybe you bring back Benjamin Watson. I don't know. He's a free agent now. Who knows? Hey, how old is he? 37 now?
Yeah. Pretty like he's getting up there in like his I'm about to say 36, 37.
You know who intrigues me? This is totally random. Antonio Gates is a free agent.
Yeah, but he's going to come at a higher price though.
Oh,
he says, Drew, come.
Depends on how much
come play a year. Let's get the band back together. Let's
What's
see what
the
happens.
market for Gates? What's Gates want to
I think
be paid?
He and Jimmy, I think the last time I looked when we were talking about tight ends, I think a couple months ago I think they had 2 of the higher end salaries, I believe.
Well, Gates is 37 and he can't run like he used to.
Of course.
He's not.
You can't command that, but that's where the number is. And that's the same thing that when you're trying to crunch all these numbers to try to figure out how you can try to fit guys in to make them take less and then come on in. But I was going to say another name that's popped up on the defensive side that I've seen Saints fans kind of put on the radar is Marcus Peters out of Kansas City. And Jason LaCanfora says, continue to hear chatter that Marcus Peters may not be long for Kansas City. Figure that intensifies next week at the Combine. So I know some Saints fans have seen his name pop up on the radar. I don't know, just wanted to bring it up to you guys, what you guys think of whether or not that's even feasible, but that is another name that the Saints have Saints fans have brought up on the defensive side.
I can tell you, and I wrote about this last season and it came to light when the Saints released Stephon Anthony. And I wrote a column about it, and then I was a source reached out who I certainly trust. I wouldn't be bringing this up otherwise, and I wrote about it then, that the Saints and the Chiefs had a trade in place, and the Saints would have moved up to go take Marcus Peters, and the trade fell through, and then they have to settle and go get Stephon Anthony. They really wanted to move up to go get Marcus Peters, and it sounded like the trade broke down on the Saints' end, that the Chiefs were ready to make this deal, and there may be a little bit of crying over spilled milk still on Airline Drive because that trade did not go through.
I didn't understand the beginning of this conversation, though. Is why would Kansas City let Marcus Peters go?
Probably because he's been a knucklehead.
Yeah, that was a lot of the reports yesterday that Kansas City was trying to offload him due to off field and just not just being a productive.
Well,
player
that was
for
his
him.
character flaw coming out of college. That he wasn't like, it wasn't criminal, but it was. He had to like step away from the team in Washington, and there was no question of his talent level in that draft. I remember because that was Saints always, of course, have needed cornerbacks, so I looked into him heavily, and that was the time when the Saints were trying to clean house, get rid of some of these character flaw problems, and I felt like at that time the Saints would stay away from Marcus Peters. Obviously, it sounded like they weren't that swayed if they were willing to go get him. Now, are they willing to take him on into this locker room where it seems like they've got a pretty good locker room? I'm curious.
I mean, knowing Sean Payton's respect for Andy Reid, if Andy Reid's – this guy's so talented and they're ready to get rid of him, no chance.
But it's also the same thing
No
we
chance.
heard around the Combine last year. This is when the Malcolm Butler stuff started coming up. This is when the Brandon Cooks trades were really getting going, and that's when all that news came out. So, like, by the end of this week, when the Combine gets started, all of these rumors are going to be flying around because we're in that phase of the NFL's offseason right now.
Yeah, look, I think Sean Payton will be, as he always is, very aggressive in their personnel acquisition. They always are. They're going to go after somebody, but I would be surprised.
Now more than ever, because
right,
now
they got a window.
in it.
They got a window to win it again. They know they need to improve their team to be competitive in the NFC. Man, the NFC is unbelievably competitive. Teams like Dallas are going to bounce back. Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers, they're going to bounce back. They've changed their defensive coaching staff. They're going to be more aggressive on defense. There's some of those programs that weren't even in the mix this year, as competitive as it was this year, are going to be right back in it. So they cannot sit still and rest on their laurels from what happened last year, or they'll get passed.
Yeah, a couple other candidates just before we go to break right here on the show, and we'll spin it back to the Saints here in a couple minutes. Jarvis Landry is someone that could potentially be tagged. I don't see it, but he's certainly – his value is good enough to warrant discussion. Case Keenum as well. What do they do with him up in Minnesota? Curious to see. Oh, and the other player I was mentioning that has a stipulation, and this is according to Greg Rosenthal from NFL.com, Nate Solder from the Patriots has a stipulation that he cannot be franchise tagged, which is interesting that someone – he's only 29, that he's able to get that in his contract, which...
Yeah, that is. Got a good agent.
I was about to say, got a good agent means he can go try to cash out right here. He's won
Right.
a few championships in New England. Time to go cash out, possibly.
We could be seeing some of the breakdown in New England. We say that every year, and, of course, they make the Super Bowl every year. But I think it could be crumbling a little bit up there.
Yep. So, all right, let's take a break right here on the show. When we get back, we'll talk more Saints personnel. I want to go into this topic with Jeff about players who they might retain, who they might not retain, because this is the time you're really evaluating, because you're heading into the Combine, you're seeing your prospects, free agency, agents, players. There's the illegal tampering going on, even though no one really bats an eye at it up at the Combine. So we'll talk more Saints coming up next here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder. Hello, Jim Derry.
What's up, dude?
Oh, I got it.
nicely.
I had to get it. I got it touched up this weekend.
Trimmed up?
Yeah.
Should have done the soccer look or whatever it is.
Yeah, with just like one head, like one side shaved, yeah.
Here on Sports 1280 New Orleans. Same great
What are we
show,
doing?
same
What are we
great
doing? Now I'm
guests.
trying to get
Just
rid of
a
all my
move to the
gray.
afternoon.
It's not working.
The Chris Cordy Show.
It's not working.
So,
what are we doing on the draft?
I texted him last night.
If you need a payday loan fast,
That'll
try
be
LendUp.com. Apply in minutes on your phone or computer, and you could have cash in your account fast. LendUp.com, the better payday loan. LendUp.com, subject to availability in your state. LendUp is a licensed credit services organization, not a direct lender.
So that whole next week, I'm going to be
iHeartRadio celebrates the contributions of African American artists to every style of music, from funk to jazz, blues to hip hop, and so much
we're
more.
talking March
Hear music
22nd,
from the
right?
artists
Yeah.
that inspired
Okay,
generations of musicians
say I'm not
and
prepared.
continue to influence pop culture today. Aretha, Jay-Z, Michael, Marvin, Tupac, Diana Ross,
No,
and
there's no
so
reason.
many more. Listen to their special playlists or an iHeartRadio original station like Urban Pop Classics and Motown Sounds, providing the soundtrack to Black History Month all February.
This tax season, AutoZone has everything your car needs, like free battery testing. Now you can stop the second guessing and finally start your car with confidence. Whether it's just a loose cable or time for a new one, AutoZone will test your battery right on the spot, free of charge. And right now, get a $10 AutoZone gift card by mail when you buy 2 Bosch and Vision wiper blades. Visit any of our 5,000 locations nationwide, and let's get you what you need. Must buy 2. Restrictions and details in store.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Team USA is moving on to the men's hockey tournament in Pyeongchang. Harvard's Ryan Donato with a pair of goals as the Americans top Slovakia 5-1 in their playoff qualifier. Donato on the effort to NBC Sports.
I'm surrounded by great playmakers that put me in situations to score, and I'm freebie here.
USA
it's good to know where Larry's head's at. Oh, I don't have to spend my money.
While American alpine skier Ted Ligety is leaving South Korea and skipping the upcoming men's slalom event and potential team event to focus on the remainder of his World Cup season. With Major League Baseball spring training camps ramping up, the league making some slight changes to try and speed up the game. They're limiting mound visits. There will be no pitch clock for the upcoming season. The Red Sox are signing outfielder J.D. Martinez, who split time between Detroit and Arizona last season. The deal report.
All right, 30 seconds.
Hill over 5 seasons. College hoops number 8, Kansas hit 16 threes. Shooting
well, Jeff's fired up that Giancarlo Stanton.
Nice, Oklahoma 104-74 at Allen Fieldhouse.
I've never gotten over it.
Radio.
To buy your home, you became a house hunting ace. Learned about loans, scoured neighborhoods, and asked the right questions.
I'll never forget them.
If you manage
I
that,
was
you
complaining
can
about back when we used to just lose
Visiting
trade partners in the middle of the year.
Coming back.
To you by AARP and the Ad Council.
All right, buddy.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back, Dunc and Holder. Franchise tag fun. And I don't think we'll be seeing that. The last time the Saints franchise tagged a player, I'm going off the top of my head, Jimmy Graham. Am I right in that? Jimmy Graham was the last guy they franchise tagged? Gotta be. 2000.
Yeah, that's right.
That was when they had the battle over the position and hurt feelings, and they haven't done that maybe in the last couple of years, right?
I mean, they used it on Breeze, but that was before that, right?
That was in 12.
Right.
That was the 12 year. So, yeah.
That would have been it. Yeah, they haven't used it very often. They haven't had to. I mean, that's kind of it's put in place for teams to have leverage and to keep be able to acquire free agents or retain free agents. What I'm curious about, when we're going to talk about some of these players that are going to be restricted, I can't find what the tenders are going to be. That's what I need to know.
I found the estimated values, and I'm wondering if it changes your mind. That's my thing.
That's what I mean. How much are they going to be committed?
Okay. According to overthecap.com, great reference salary cap wise. That and Spot Track are basically the two references I always use. So the restricted free agent, how about let me go through the franchise tag since we've been talking about these numbers, and I'll just say, because the one candidate the Saints have to be potentially franchise tagged, you'd agree would be Kenny Vaccaro, and that's a stretch. We don't see that's going to happen. But for a safety, the projected franchise tag value, it would be the cap hit this year. For a safety would be $11.1 million. No
franchise
for a franchise tag.
No, they're not gonna franchise him.
Well, no, I don't think they're gonna resign him.
They're not.
Yeah,
they're not.
Exactly. I mean, we've
pretty
known
much
this since the season. maybe for a year we've known that.
Unless something's changed, Kenny Vaccaro will be playing elsewhere next season.
I encourage him to chase the money. Go maximize your contract. I encourage that. Every NFL player, chase the money. Forget winning. Forget all that. Chase the money because your career is limited. And people are like, oh, well, you want to do that? No. Maximize your value always, period, in the NFL. Because your shelf life is nothing like in any other sport.
And the Saints are going to ride or die with the two young safeties they've drafted, Marcus Williams and Von Bell. They've got some depth there. They got Raphael Bush as a veteran. I don't know if they bring him back or not. I assume they'll at least bring him to camp. But
he is a free agent, which
I think they like what they saw.
Not?
I think they like what they saw from the young guys, and they're going to go with those two. Again, those are the decisions they have to make. And I don't think Kenny Vaccaro did anything egregious here. I just think they're moving on.
You draft two safeties, and they're cheap. That's just what it is. Right. It's not like did Sean Payton publicly do some things to Kenny Vaccaro? Yes,
Yep.
he yanked him from a game.
Yep.
We've seen that happen multiple times in his career with the Saints. He's been benched or taken out of the starting lineup. Also, Sean Payton did not specifically call him out by name, but
he alluded
to people being penalized every game. You could easily point to the two most penalized players on the team, Ken Crawley and Kenny Vaccaro. You know that's what he meant. So
is that just a thing for him? It's kind of the dichotomous nature of how his career has kind of gone while he's been a Saint. He's shown flashes of really, really great play, but then there have been just times where he's been unable to obviously either stay on the field for other reasons in terms of committing penalties or
injuries too.
Injuries
he's
too.
Been injured. There's no doubt about that.
I guess it's just kind of the dichotomous nature.
Now,
of
if you ask him, he's played through 7 broken vertebrae and a busted aorta, and so. But no, everybody plays for injuries. But no, he's had some significant injuries. There's no doubt. But he's also been suspended. Got suspended for 4 games, and they waited it out, and he finally took it when the Saints were out of it. So there's a lot of reasons, but the number one reason is he wants to go maximize his value. The Saints aren't going to pay him. It's a similar situation as far as dollars and cents when Jermon Bushrod left. They liked Jermon Bushrod, but they weren't going to break the bank for him, and Jermon went and cashed out. And he's one of the more respected players they've ever had, and no off the field or penalties or getting suspended, nothing like that.
Yeah, it happens. That's part of the business of this league, and the Saints are in a better position now at safety than they've been in a while. And they proved last year when Vaccaro was out that they could survive without him. I think that's part of the deal. I think they look at their budget and look at the future and say, where are we going to commit some of these dollars down the road? And you got guys like Mike Thomas that are going to come up. It's just going to happen. You're going to have to start committing big dollars to some of these players you want to retain. They're going to be part of the core.
You're going to pay Mike Thomas. You're going to pay Alvin Kamara at some point. I mean, you're going to pay Ryan Ramczyk at some point.
Yeah, no doubt.
And you're going to pay. Well, obviously, you're going to pay for Marshawn Lattimore at some point because
that's the one you're really going to pay.
Mike, well, that one is because
Thomas and Lattimore, because those are prime positions. All right, so what's the tender?
Okay, so the restricted free agent tender is projected by Over the Cap. The first round tender is $4.2 million. I'm estimating 4.152, whatever, 4.2. The second round tender is $2.9 million, and the original round, which is basically anything after that, $1.9 million. So the players we're going to be focusing in on the restricted part would be Willie Snead, Brandon Coleman, and Delvin Breaux. Those would be the 3 names most significantly tied to the restricted free agent chatter. Why don't we take a break right here on the show, give you the info when we get back, and then we will discuss where the Saints should go, because this is what they're doing right now. They're figuring out who they're going to let go, who they're going to bring back. They'll potentially be talking to agents at the combine of players who they want to try to bring back, or maybe tampering illegally, just like every other team in the NFL. Just happened to be talking to this agent, and he just so happens to represent someone on another team we might like. Hey, you never know.
Hey,
exactly.
It's how you don't want to see how the sausage is made. You just want to put it on the grill.
Well, unless you like the Jets and the Patriots, and they want to get each other in trouble.
Jets and the Patriots, Colts and the Patriots.
Right.
I mean,
all of that.
Yeah,
there's a Patriots theme there.
You definitely don't want to know how a sausage is made.
Just eat it. And
definitely don't want to know that.
All right, we'll talk restricted free agents coming up next. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder. No, I don't care how a hot dog's made. Just give it to me.
Don't want to know? Don't care.
I don't care.
Just slap it down.
Your forecast on
cook it thoroughly. Thank you.
New Orleans.
I don't care if that lucky dog
This
vendor's got
report is brought
leprosy.
to
I'm
you
just going to
by
eat it.
Positive Coaching Alliance.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz. Today, another day of record high temperatures, getting up to 83 degrees. Mixture of sun and clouds, a slight chance of a shower at 20%. Now tonight, overnight lows pretty mild, 68 north, 71 south. Tomorrow on Wednesday, the best chance of rain for the work week at about 30 to 40%. Tomorrow's high of 83, and we stay warm all the way through Friday with scattered showers possible during the afternoon. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz with your Weather Authority. Authority forecast.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national
look at
offers
your boy,
more than 1,000
Darren
free
Ravel,
online
just
resources for
needle
youth and
in
high
the
school
wound.
sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators.
Oh, God. Yeah, my brother's reveling in this.
Setting up. DJ. Spinning oldies
like,
all night.
dude.
Gift. Their favorite jazz album, signed.
Like, this isn't news.
550.
It's not.
Just send me your half with Zelle.
Oh, Zelle.
It would have been news
That's
if they
already in
got
Wells Fargo
the
mobile
appeal
app. Sending money now.
upheld.
Mom and Dad's 25th anniversary is going to be perfect.
Send and receive money from just about anyone with a
But
U.S.-based bank
slow
account.
time.
Wells Fargo, building better every day. Not available with Opportunity Checking or Opportunity Savings accounts. Terms and conditions apply. The Zelle service is property of Early Warning Services, LLC, Wells Fargo Bank, and a member FDIC.
Samsung has a patent for a new type of drone that lets you control the machine with your eyes and hand gestures. The drawings for the design were first reported by Let's Go Digital. Plans call for a drone that can track the user's eyes and hands in real time, also includes voice recognition. The patent was granted just last week, potentially a game changer in the drone industry. There's a new laptop recall. Lenovo is recalling more than 78,000 ThinkPad laptops due to an overheating battery and fire hazard. The recall involves Lenovo's 14-inch ThinkPad X1 Carbon 5th generation laptops. Apple's new Cupertino headquarters is apparently a dangerous place to work because of all the glass. Local emergency has been called at least twice to treat workers for cuts after walking into the walls.
Yeah, because people
Apple
are
won't
stupid.
say how many times it's happened. There are reports that some employees have put Post-it notes on the
Pelicans play
multitude
again?
of glass
Friday?
doors
Pelicans
that
will play till
walls
Friday,
in
yep.
buildings to warn
Well,
of their
they
presence.
elongated
That's
the
up.
break
Doug
because after
Parrish,
with
NBC
elongating the
News Radio.
season. So
Jim,
they
would
had
you
more
sponsor
days.
my
So they
son
said,
in
oh
the
yeah,
fun
everybody
line?
come back
Sure.
Friday.
Here's $1.
Jim, I know a senior manager with your experience makes between 100 and 132K.
Oh, there's 5.
Thanks. Hey, Sue, the director with a median salary of 95,000. Got a sec?
How we find jobs has changed. On Indeed.com, our company reviews give you the inside track on thousands of companies. You can research salaries, benefits, company cultures, and more. Search for greatness. Search Indeed, the world's #1 job site. Indeed,
coming back.
#1 job site according to ComScore total visits.
Y'all crazy bitch, but you're so good I'm on top
Whoa.
of it.
Learn what our inside.
Y'all paying attention?
Your home teams. Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Man, potty mouth torture Tuesday. I guess that's legal to say. One of those words, right?
Scratches all down my back.
Oh no. What? Clyde?
Love that song. Butt Cherry?
Apparently you
Every
do.
once in a while we
Ding,
just
ding,
get
ding.
a rando from Clyde.
Crazy blank.
Rando. Well, if you want to get involved, 504-260-1280. I feel like I have not thrown out the phone number enough, but oh well, we'll move on with the conversation. So, talking restricted free agents, because honestly, if you look at the Saints free agent list, it's not some eye-popping thing where you're like, oh my gosh, it's like 2012 when the Saints had Drew Brees and Marcus Colston and Carl Nicks and Tracy Porter, and it was like dozens of names that, oh my gosh, what are they going to do with these players? I mean, the main free agents, of course, Drew Brees. But you got Kenny Vaccaro, Alex Okafor, Senio Kelemete. Those are probably the most significant of the players. I've already mentioned Chase Daniel. A lot of these guys, okay, we'll figure it out. They're not going to be signed right away in the first wave of free agency. But the restricted free agents, to me, are more intriguing than we've seen than, say, maybe remember, Jeff, a few years ago, when Pierre Thomas was a restricted free agent, Lance Moore was a restricted free agent. I feel like this is in a similar boat. Maybe not the same, but a similar boat. So the restricted free agents, there are technically 4 of them. Sorry, David Perry, you're not in our conversation. Willie Snead, Brandon Coleman, and Delvin Breaux. Just for perspective, last year Willie Snead made $615,000. So did Brandon Coleman. Last year, Delvin Breaux made $529,000. So you're juggling dollars and cents here, Jeff, as far as how much do you want to pay these guys? Do you want to tender them? Because it's locked in. It's 1 year, but you're locked in at, I would say, $1.9 million per player, because we're not going any higher than the no compensation tender here.
Well, it comes down to, do you believe the value for that player is high in the rest of the league? Really, that's what it comes down to. You can retain them at $1.9 million. You have their rights, or You can let them go to the open market, and then you're
Well, then you get them cheaper. You can
right. You can
potentially
get them cheaper, but you also might lose them. That's the key.
How much of a loss would these three players do? I think that's the question that is debatable. How much do these three players fit into what the Saints are doing going forward? I know Willie Snead and Brandon Coleman are your 3 and 4 receivers. I understand that. Could you go in a different direction in free agency? Willie Snead is by far, well, all of them all have different kind of variables with them. We know Delvin Breaux is injury. Brandon Coleman, you've invested a lot of time in him, but what did he have? 25 catches. I know he had 3 touchdowns. Fumbled a couple times, more infamously, even though they still won. And Willie Snead had 90 yards receiving last year. 90. Well, 91, technically. Do you pay him $2 million when you basically just said, we don't need you in the offense, period? That's the question.
I don't know. The Saints know more than any of us about what held Willie Snead back a year ago. If it's something they feel is correctable and they can get him back to the pre-2017 Willie Snead, then maybe they do. If it's something that they see that they think is a devolution of his production, then they're going to move on. But you look at the wide receiver depth chart. Once you get past Mike Thomas and Ted Ginn, there isn't a whole lot there.
There's basically nothing there.
Yeah, I mean, you're moving on. If you're moving on from Willie Snead and Brandon Coleman, you got Tommy Lee Lewis and Austin Carr, and then Traven Doral, Paul Turner. I mean, these are Josh Huff. I don't know. Do you believe those guys can do it on a day-to-day basis?
No, you'd be looking in a different direction as far as bringing in a free agent and or drafting a player. And just to put some perspective on who's out there in free agency, and we don't know who the potential cap casualties, those will come out later on. I don't think the Saints are going to be trading for any wide receivers. Look, I already mentioned Jarvis Landry. I know the local ties, people are going to be banging the drum for him. Saints aren't paying for Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry's going to go get paid because he played under a rookie contract. What was he, a third-round pick? So he played under basically a rookie minimum for 4 years in Miami. He's looking to go cash out, so don't even bring him up to me.
Right, yeah, he's gonna ask for a command, big dollars. I don't see the Saints in that market. They haven't spent on wide receiver ever. They invested to Marcus Coleman once. Marcus Colston, that was it.
Dave in his car.
All right, let's hit the phone lines. 504-260-1280 is the number. He's in a car. We don't know where he is, and it's Dave. Somewhere in a car, somewhere on this planet, I'm assuming. What's up, Dave?
Hey, the Willie Snead thing, and I've talked to a lot of people about this. Something is not right. How many passes have you seen him drop?
He's pretty sure-handed. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. I still contend the Saints are punishing the guy. In spite of what y'all said, why would they do that? I think they're negotiating to beat him down so they can get him for next to nothing. My thought only. Y'all's comment?
All right, Dave. Hey, appreciate the phone call in a car somewhere in the universe. The thing is, if they don't tender him, he doesn't have to come back. He can go somewhere else. So I do think that they just lost trust in him. I wrote a column right after he was suspended, the day of he was suspended, out for 3 games, and I wrote, look, he's given the Saints reason to doubt him. Obviously, they've doubted him. I mean, there's no way around it. It's not that he all of a sudden got the drops and because we didn't see him. Who knows? He didn't get thrown the ball, but there's something there, and you can only beat him down so much because, like I said, your only negotiating tool, say with Willie Snead, the Saints have control of him only if they tender him.
Well, none of that makes sense to me, Dave. If they were upset with Willie Snead, they would just cut him. I mean, why would they bring him back at all?
Well, they still needed wide receiver
depth.
Still,
why would you? If you're that upset,
now they were fortunate.
Move on.
They were fortunate that they didn't have any injuries. If they would have had injuries, Willie Snead would have had to have been in the mix. Like, it would have had.
Right, but I mean, there are other players on the market. You can go out and get somebody. You can make a trade or something. I'm just saying, if they were that upset with him, I don't think there's some conspiracy here to punish Willie Snead. I really don't. I don't think that's how the Saints operate, to be honest with you. I mean, this is a guy that hasn't done anything wrong at the most part since he's been there.
Suspended for 3 games for
That's it.
DUI. That's it.
Well, that's a punishment in itself. I mean, he doesn't get paid during that time. So he's basically has to bite the bullet on that. I don't, that doesn't make sense to me.
And guys, we have
something's going on. Well, what is it? What do you
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he's just not that good. Maybe he's dropped off in his performance.
I hadn't seen him get the ball thrown to him to know he's no good anymore.
I don't know. I can't answer it for you, but I don't think that's why are the Saints trying to not win games and not throw him the ball? Maybe it's somebody else getting open.
Well, why would you go from 900 yards to basically 900 yards to 90 yards? I don't understand it.
It happens. It happens in the NFL all the time.
Not that dramatic of a
players
fall. No way, not that dramatic of a fall.
Players. It happened to Lance Moore in his career. He had 1 year he averaged.
That's because Kenny Stills came in and took it from him.
Mike Thomas and Ted Ginn Jr.
Mike
stepped
Thomas
into roles.
and Brandon Cooks and Willie Snead, almost all 3 of them had 1,000 yards in one season.
I know, but this team became more of a running team this year.
Yeah, how much of that does come into play, knowing the fact that we're talking about Alvin Kamara is now a hybrid back of both running and being able to catch the ball. That takes catches away from somebody else.
I mean, there's only so many touches,
There's only so many touches that everybody can get.
The ball just went somewhere else.
Yeah, someone's got to eventually take the ball for that. And then to Larry's point for Brandon Coleman, I mean, he caught 23 balls for 364 yards, 15.8 yards per reception, 3 touchdowns, and then you're right, he also had 2 fumbles.
But do you pay him $2 million to come back?
Probably not.
Right.
Then okay, so you don't bring back Coleman. Do you bring back Snead at the same price for even less production and something we don't know what's going on?
Well, can't they let them go to the open market, see what their value is, and then make them an offer?
If I'm Willie Snead, I'm getting the hell out of here as quickly as I can. I hope they won't tender me if I'm Willie Snead because I'm ready. They basically torpedoed his potential contract year. Torpedoed it.
Well, he kind of torpedoed it himself, I would say.
Well,
I mean, you're forgetting Alvin Kamara's emergence in this thing. I mean, Alvin Kamara caught a lot of balls as a receiver.
But
so
the tight end didn't catch anything. I know they took away from other spots. I get
That's
that.
What I mean.
But you go from 900 yards to 90. Come on, something is up. Let's hit the phone lines.
He missed 3 games.
He played. Oh, he missed 4. Maybe he missed 5. I know he had to hit, but it doesn't go down that dramatically.
He played in 11 games, making 7 games started. So
yeah, so he was blocking to technically get the start.
To get the start. Yeah.
Yep, that's what he was in there for. All right, let's hit the phone lines. Let's go to Metairie and talk with our buddy Barry. Hey Barry, thanks for calling the show. What you got?
Morning, guys. I wanted to talk about 2 players in free agency. One of them I think they should go after. And the other one, I think he was with the Saints before, and I think I know what I'm talking about. Jimmy Graham's a free agent. I hope the Saints don't go after Jimmy Graham. I think he was a cancer in the locker room the last year he was here, and I know they need a tight end. I think they need to go in a different direction. And the other thing, guys, I think they should go after Jarvis Landry. Let Snead and Coleman go. That frees up a little bit of money. I think the fact that Jarvis Landry's from Louisiana, you might be able to get him a little cheaper than other teams, because I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people into Landry. And I think Jarvis Landry would be a really good possession receiver for Drew Brees to take a lot of the pressure off of Michael Thomas. I think that'd be a really good combination at wide receiver. Let Snead go, let Coleman go. I hope they don't have to go after Jimmy Graham. I'm going to listen, guys. Give me your comments on Jimmy Graham and Jarvis Landry. I'm going to hang up the list.
All right, Barry, appreciate the phone call. I don't know if Jimmy Graham was necessarily a cancer in the locker room, but I think
a cancer.
Upstairs there was friction once. As soon as they got to an arbitration room and they wanted to take double the money away from Jimmy Graham between the wide receiver and tight end debate, that's where that relationship soured.
But it should not have soured. I mean, it's business. You hear it all the time. It's business. He's trying to get as good a deal as he can get. They're trying to get as good a deal as they can get. It should never come down to personal feelings in these negotiations. It shouldn't.
Well,
and can I go with the second thing on Jarvis Landry?
Well, I already went into it.
Jarvis Landry's also not coming here because he went to LSU. I don't know if you know this, but the Saints have things against LSU guys.
They're going to bring back Al Woods.
Has Miami come out? Are they cash strapped? They can't pay him?
I think.
We know they're moving on from him. Is that?
I'm not sure if that's the case.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
I think it's just kind of
he's just
the idea that, like, well, I mean, obviously,
if they don't tag him, he's going to want to see what's out there.
Right, but he can resign.
Yeah, he can certainly resign. But I'm telling you, there's no way the Saints are going to pay Jarvis Landry. No chance. He's not going to take a discount. This is where he's going to cash in. This is his time to cash in. I wouldn't be surprised if he went to Cleveland for a boatload of money.
How are they going to do that and pay Kirk Cousins? Because that was also something that I saw today, that Kirk Cousins and the Browns
they got money.
They do. But a Twitter question, guys, specifically about wide receivers. This is from JFoul1962. What do you think about wide receiver Paul Richardson for the Saints? Paul Richardson of the Seattle Seahawks played in 16 games, 13 games started. He caught 44 balls for 703 yards, 16 yards average, and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think he's someone they look at. He was in that draft class with Landry and Brandon Cooks and all of those guys. So I think he was a second-round pick that year. So he's certainly someone they would look at. There's no doubt. Look, there are wide receivers out there that are viable that you might have to pay a little bit for, but are more productive than Brandon Coleman and more productive than Willie Snead. I mean, it's just what it is. I'm not willing to, if I'm the Saints, commit $2 million for one season for Brandon Coleman or Willie Snead. I'm ready to move on and go another route. I wouldn't be stunned if they drafted a guy, and because Ted Ginn's not going to be around forever, so I wouldn't be surprised if they drafted a guy, and I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of got a free agent that was not super expensive.
And here's the other question. Jarvis Landry is a possession receiver, basically. Do you pay money for that? I don't think you do.
Someone could.
I'm saying if I'm the Saints, I don't.
No.
I mean, Mike Thomas is your number one. Ted Ginn Jr.'s got his role. He averaged 8.8 yards a catch last year. Now he played with the Dolphins.
He played with Cutler.
Played with the Dolphins.
Last year did not help his
But do you pay him big money to be your number two, number
Saints? No.
But I mean, I'm surprised that we're not talking about like how Saints fans don't want like a speedster or an explosive guy, a deep threat guy like a Ted Ginn, or somebody like that. It's like
I find Saints fans
it's
undervalue Ted Ginn.
Yeah,
he was
fantastic this year.
He was more consistent than ever.
Yeah,
I think it also helps when Drew Brees is throwing you the football, and he's had the drops, but Drew Brees is the most consistent quarterback he's ever played with. All right, let's take a break right here on the show. When we get back, we'll dive more into this topic because we never even got to Delvin Breaux yet. That's the other one where people are wondering what's going to happen. Another restricted free agent. So, all right, let's take a break. One more segment here. Good conversation, so come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Josh Innes is moving to morning.
Yeah, I'd rather pay $4 million a year for any one of these guys, as opposed to Snead and Coleman.
You get the point. Right. Sports 1280.
Like free agents.
Americans are always on the move. They're in the car, or at the office,
decent,
or working around the house. Americans refuse.
I mean, it's pretty amazing to me.
So how do you connect with
who led the league according to this one stat I'm looking at in drops? Marquise Lee,
of Americans every week,
8 drops. I mean, that doesn't seem like a whole lot to me. The entire league,
who has time to sit
the
and watch
leading,
TV?
that shows you how good
So when
receivers
you want
have
to
got.
connect with all those constantly moving adults, teens and millennials, get to iHeartMedia.com.
Or Des Bryant had a lot of drops. Where's he? He's got to be high on that list.
Quitting tobacco can be tough.
He had 6. Jimmy Graham had 7. Julio Jones had 7.
If you want personal support,
Demarius Thomas had 7.
Yeah,
that's not very many drops.
We got you.
Crabtree,
Andy Benoit from MMQB talking cap casualties, maybe like Randall Cobb or like Macklin.
Right, that'd be a good fit.
Emmanuel Sanders.
Randall Cobb would be a great fit.
We're here
He'd be
24/7
perfect.
to support you.
That's what I'd go for. That's the kind of guy I think Peyton will go for. Proven guy, locker room guy.
For over 80 years, in the heart of Mid-City, where it's always been.
Kind of fell off the
There's
map.
New Orleans tradition.
Adams.
Mandina's Restaurant.
Adams is
Come in for
I
some
meant
New
like him and
Orleans
Rodgers, though. It wasn't like his wedding or something.
Old-style
Rodgers
New
and his
Orleans
wedding.
food. Atmosphere.
Of course, that doesn't
and some of the best
Saints don't have
seafood
anybody.
in the
They
city.
caught the ball well.
Mandinas.
Always the best.
I like the
Always
the
Mandinas.
little cobra flute in there.
World, but you can be part of the change in the world.
Mark Ingram,
Ron
3 drops.
Burgundy flute.
Led the
Being
team.
a Compassion
I don't
International
know if I trust this
child
stat or not.
sponsor.
I guess I
you
do.
can
It's
choose
Fox.
a child to sponsor now at
I'd go look up like
compassion.com/radio. That's
Football Outsiders have like a
compassion.com/radio.
drop stat.
That's what I'm...
Dunc and Holder now. Eric Asher next at noon on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
One more segment here on Dunc and Holder. Delvin Breaux, the ultimate mystery, I feel like. I don't know how well he would have played last year. We know what happened with him as far as the injury, and let's panic on airline drive, and let's float a report that we're going to trade him, and then all of a sudden, oh, whoops, he's got a broken leg. Our bad.
Yeah, that was bad.
That's insert the Price is Right horn here. Boom, 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 boom. Exactly. See, I knew he'd jump.
He has it.
That's why I did it. He's got that old.
He's got it down.
The bugle.
Yeah,
Clyde is
it's
the
amazing
bugle.
how I've been able to do that in my life.
I thought it was a little mysterious, adding to the intrigue, that late in the season, Delvin Breaux's locker was completely cleaned out, and that he was flying commercial. I think he was on the same flight that we were on, or at least I was on, to Atlanta late in the year, not with the team. Those things are always interesting to
Well,
me.
you do remember-
I don't read too much into it, but they usually don't clean their lockers out
No, you usually don't.
because they usually have rehab there and stuff.
Well, maybe he doesn't trust the Saints doctors. That
But he
might
was
be
there.
one thing.
But it was there for a while. His locker was filled for most of the season, and then all of a sudden, late in the year, it was empty.
Also, interesting that in the press box at the Saints-Vikings game, NFC divisional round, remember the 2 players that were in the press box with us?
Yes.
Kenny Vaccaro and Delvin Breaux.
In the press box, which was
Were they
random.
jettisoned off? Like, you can't even be on the field. Get out of here.
I think the word we got was that they both had lower leg injuries that required them to sit, not stand.
That makes sense.
So it does make sense.
I know.
But it was weird seeing them up in
And the press box
on
of all
press
that. We
row.
have club, suite access. What?
Yeah, they were up in press row right down from us.
Exactly. Getting in the buffet like Jonathan Sullivan did way back in the day. But no, this is the other scenario. The last time you saw Delvin Breaux play, he wasn't 100%. He rushed back from that leg injury. He still got the leg injury. You don't know what he is. Is a cornerback maybe worth the risk at $2 million to tender? Is that worth the risk?
I think so. If you think he's going to come back, I mean, corners are valued. The Saints have learned that lesson more than anybody the last few years. If you've got a good corner, you can't have enough good ones. So get him under contract. He's a local guy. I mean, I don't know what happened with the entire injury situation, but I don't think you move on from Delvin Breaux at $2 million.
And obviously not as something that you should take as gospel, but clearly he was involved in the season when the Saints were doing well, when the Saints were doing bad. He was involved with basically on social media saying, praising the guys, still praising the team, still very much involved with how the ebbs and flows of the Saints season. So, it's strange that his locker's cleared out and things like that, but again, you shouldn't take it as gospel, but it still seems like he's very invested in this team and the players.
Well, also, this is the team that gave him his shot. So that's one thing. And depending on those, and we could say, oh, Delvin Breaux, this and that. This is on the Saints. I mean, the Delvin Breaux has no negotiating power. So if this is all on the Saints, do they feel like that he can come back? Do they feel like it's worth the risk? Let's throw $2 million. Let's see if he's going to do that. Because I think you know more, you know less about him than you do about Coleman and Snead. Like, you probably have a good idea. All right, what are these guys? You don't know what Delvin Breaux is going to be. You just don't. Is it worth the $2 million risk to do that?
Yeah, that was a weird situation last year because I don't know if you all felt the same way, but I thought when he got hurt in camp, he was going to be back in like 4 weeks or something.
Well, the Saints were under that impression too.
And all of a sudden, he missed the entire season, basically.
Well, that's because he had a fracture in his leg. The Saints were under that same impression, and that's probably goes into it. That's the prognosis he was getting. Then he went and goes and gets a second opinion, and he's got a broken leg, and then doctors get fired.
But I thought even after that, we were led to believe he was going to be back.
We were led to believe
that
he could have been
significant of an injury.
it was significant enough, but you'd had enough time to heal it. That short-term IR would have been something they would have done. And then Sean Payton just kind of called it and said, nope, he's not going to be ready. So they could, in that sense, maybe they wanted to move on from him. I don't know. These three players are certainly more interesting to follow what they're going to do than maybe the unrestricted guys.
I think because the position value of cornerback, Delvin Breaux is the top priority of the restricted guys, without question. Now, do the Saints feel that way? I don't know. But, they're in a great position. But this is their top situation, their biggest concerns, other than obviously Drew Brees, because everybody else is under contract that matters. There are not too many teams in the league with as low a priorities as the Saints have going into free agency.
1 minute.
Yeah, absolutely. So good show. I want to thank Andrew Lopez for actually stopping by the office, the place where he works. So that's good to see him once every 5 months.
when he's not at every single LSU sporting event that they have on campus.
When he's not like throwing an arm to be at one place and his legs left somewhere else, and they've got to do the typing for him. So I want to thank Andrew Lopez for all of his LSU insight and good conversation. You missed any of it? Sports1280.com, NOLA.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube page. Tomorrow's Wednesday. I assume we will have Will Guillory to get us back updated with the Pelicans moving in the second half of the season. So good show, guys. We will be back here tomorrow. And Eric Asher coming up next. So don't go anywhere. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder.
All right, guys.
Thanks, brother. Thanks, Double D.
Yep.
Triple D.
Triple D.
Quadruple D.
Has ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease.
We're going to start calling you the White Panther.
That could help. Dr. Tomas Homeland,
I don't know if that'll work.
Tough disease to deal with.
It can affect anybody, but it's between 55 and 65. So it's sort of in the older age group, men and women, maybe men a little bit more. 20,000 people in this country have it.
ALS usually begins with weakness in an arm or leg and can eventually affect speech and breathing. People with it usually don't live longer than 5 years after diagnosis, which can take up to 4